Ricknez, Chair of RDC. Mr. Tahi, could you do the roll call for the record?
This is roll call for Resource and Development Committee, 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting Wednesday, February 16th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Honorable Ricky Nez.
Delegate Ricknez is present.
Honorable Rick Nez is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker is present.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. is present. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Good morning, Chairman. Key Allen is present.
Key Allen Begay Jr. is present. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Morning, present.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels present. Honorable Mark A. Freeland. Honorable Mark A. Freeland. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. is present. Chair, you have 5 members available, which constitute a quorum. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi, for that. And then we'll go ahead and do the invocation at this time. I would ask Honorable Vice Chair Walker, would you do the invocation, please? Thank you.
Chairman, though, committee members, though, staff, though, but that is Angidan, so yet, Eben, though, Eki Beta, Echo, though, Danita has see, though, the Bashi, citizen, that it's Hika teacher, citizen, the whole local, a could have been mentioned, and those shelter has seen. Question, ja, citizen, be had odds. Dat bij de staat ligt. Ik zeg, we zouden dus gewoon naar staan, maar dan, ja, dat is niet trouw. Het ja, wat is zo la? Niet trouw, wat die dan zit die de net nog steeds, niet maar. Dan is er nog steeds. Dit je hoort, citizen bij het iets, I don't that ja kon, wat die nog naar Missionage home ye kai don't he yage. Don't you nag it cohort echo. Put out a masan and ye che. Or just your skalki put out a has a nidini de co. Evik out a citizen be hati zeko. A cotiche had a and sakisto sa de yatki. Ena nationality ne the hat a. Ado cont in Canal, Navajo, the quiz Hanashi, a she quite a Bernard is Nico committee. Ado the Nebenant, Ado Nahata in the Shiki Edo, Nan Splak and as Laki out, and Adi quite a be, Hinani Chrislinko, Adon Hikate and then he hidden there. Joe Badins and ho Nanish. That did lift and a car teacher to dance and I could ask you that in ya dark. I could teach you quite a and yet quite a hot ado, quite a hickory. A large citizen who be had it hicko in he large epidil. A con what ego, Jobawinson, it echo. Igen den nog leni tot zijn handen doch liedje kot wat dat job insen zege kon het partis zege at atla kot en ditje hond she onhitje niet al dit to ben ziki adot wat also pa job insen hidden het hikeya sa adot kon kinat Bada Huiliako, it na a patit, and the con quite a citizen a the batit Jacob. I don't sit off to buy it and what a citizen la nit agency behati zita abo on si kosopit abo on il out it ko adot also but for the deal in the what quite ben si ki large ko it nishin that on the tasol so needs ko adot ko order nationally equal nationally equal na handsni sli na kinaha da doba akutche itako tahollo da bits ado atahaz ajna hoina hollo doben nata ita tanda di desli akodat ego pansin ne ki kwege tsuzun be behitsi ki kwet behiliado de ko oder abza hat nigi ot ego yet pansi kisiko ko kwege digende ne no hleni ko yecha naso zedo de ko in the nanel tato de ko do hiotechnigo don ha tieko tan chitzelo ada inil nego nani kato de ko anil ko the nen hit neniki ado na fail chain dan neniki da ho the ne san ha ke da heki ho la do the nedan le dan de ho te na halchne da eko ado la bichda hinil da kwitche asin del ne shiko at the nedan lo ida ko ba pansi kiso de the net the nebenant chilo ko also ado la do da bajo ba is da ko jo what are they in today case what are citizen yaho shanda do shele ko also se do le ko adon that yakona and shil navigation and belko resource and development committee bishma and who but angite nel quiz kana ninan shidel na go hol jishko itche nan shinane nedon is kaudo kiskaudo kota adoda hota the question not those ko kwade ya adot ego nan shinane liado leko the chen hitzelo which I need nego akot eko what are you ya citizen be bahas sidolation and ako adoko presentation do handa shigi na halchene that eko edo Holta, so what are the Ibanzas case ako ni Holta ko beside Lego, so what are nuns? A day better need Lego to sit at need Nago. A handsy case of Jot out a nas nunish belika. Ni got it I had the Holoko. I don't find that she better than Haya the Halianiki Holla. What echo, the Holta or Leko, Navajo Nation government, who does so. Ado da jot ado banzas case ko what echo also echo by needs and also sto ado le ben hije na di da hollo ko what echo even patso hotzno yat echo she what banzas case yenan adan leni do ho large na kana zindagi do edon hol do le ko President, Vice President, Speaker, and the Chief Justice. Adultnas Naliki Gidago, if the hot Gidago San Shitik Niki Ho, Edon Shidon Hol or the teacher, or that citizen behaves Ziki a but Edo Le Johnson the co. Ado Kota with Aho, Niklas Kayatabet Oche Koho. San is too large as the 8,000 carefully coco and the horn in a slad and lentia traffic and that day Yako had the Hada Chileco, the Nado Sanaho also. But your by any cynical, it's so that it's begin that it's Penahava. Con Hartic on Hojish Leco. Instead of not Bansi Kiss Bajini, but Oko Bahanits. Though your daily not eat echo. What other citizen they have seen or any whole can't only. Ni kaya to home your daily what echo. I don't the home he not lost the hollow. Ni kaya pakai home. What echo home at visit is do visit nes hon nanel na lostan lenigi I ban sikis ut out eko bahanitsen ado ban sikis I nabi sala I nabel khatatat eko ko yat ban sikis bahanitsen tlatada ban huit eko jo ba hayado le to jo ne yedo le jo be ina idole jo ne ti no the ho ban de eko teacher citizen to be hilado le what sikis dat so this in the large about this in the home quite put a benish other bens son leko coded the triada hot is all this nana that angel the hojodo this co what ja hot is sahada that honana is that unita then sanadi kiss ko yanji kata hot so da ya it's so hot the kiss hot out It's not the whole Jason the whole I don't it was when that update out of a Benasi teacher. I can't it edo le ko jail kijishi where they quite in and should have deal the nails and it lead all the concert the heart ziki because head a williagi because how the hot edo le because how the hot on it Johnny it's in the co edo citizen be hillard all the what so this is in the co the in the no sleni ko ni tsoi ni klenje wen hi yaje ni klego to ti de be wen ni ko o in the yen so hoten zin jo da ben si ki ko tsuzun hi jib ni do le kon so do le ko hi je ho jo do le na sto ko o jo na sli do le jo na sli Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, and Honorable Vice Chair Walker. You're only going to hot settings and dog corrosion, but not sure. That's a neat tornado. That is a year kiddo and him to case and lead or left for a deep in a big but not sure. So there's any key for Robbie Howard C. Yes, and Shane National announcements. Mr. Tahi, do you have any announcements for us?
Good morning, chair members of RDC. My announcement for today is tomorrow you guys have a special NABI meeting at 10 a.m. that is going to be held by teleconference. Then on Friday, February 18th, we have an executive work session with the Navajo Department of Justice Water Rights Unit and Navajo Nation Water Rights Commission to discuss the New Mexico water rights settlement and negotiation and litigation at Twin Arrows Casino. This is going to be an in-person session. Then on Saturday, February 19th at 9 a.m., we have a leadership meeting with NHA Board of Commissioners and the CEO to discuss their goals and objectives and how to prevent funding from reverting back to the federal government. As for next week, on Monday, February 21st is President's Day, so the Navajo Nation will be closed. Chair, that's my announcement for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahi, for that. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other announcements?
Chairman, Delegate Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Colleagues and staff, as well as my Che. Thank you for that beautiful prayer, Che. Very much appreciated. Chairman and my colleagues, I'm going to be asked to be excused later on this morning. Today, I'm going to be meeting here with New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham in Santa Fe. So I'll let you know and I'll text the group when I'll be going into that meeting, but I'll be on the call, Chairman. Thank you. Just a request.
Thank you for letting us know, Honorable Freeland. Travel safely. And any other announcements?
The Chair, this is Delegate Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Yes, good morning again, Mr. Chair. I don't know tourism behao. Three no kodo should shake kodo yeah. Ishin kodo ben nana. He dashed on the sound. Did he not steal me? Yeah. I don't know kodo na gaita. all the announcements on the regular at the lab. But I Maggie don't know for Banda Degi, that's why could I see Banda his neck on his husband or the Codotion and after Senegi, the gay old jet Jorge. The Quishinache, he could on him at legal. Chapter Secretary, the not little. Not I don't know could on the old jet Veterans Organization Commander, Lone Lada Nache store. A corner is Kanda in his own deep Zaho. Of course, he could do not as chin and Lenny Kodonana Kodo. Ilina is in the Gido Bashin. If he could do full baby, the baby national to Leskodo. Narrate and Wesley Simpson. A whole again, I don't know, could I see, could the Zeju Azon Tigi, I that so. Asian raised today by he did the rate of what considered out of this none. So it was on his husband on the great commander, not a Korean War veteran. Whatever nana she so it could a sinning for the baby Shabanashni told the that for the you could not the Craigie, I don't know about Shin and then he got a job arranged and don't know about the trade and as good of a case the bed that out of the cargo. For idiot or other announcement of Shlad on this could Mr. Chair. I don't see now tomorrow seeing the great number ear to see how they desk is the great moment of silence. So idiot on this could Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Daniels, what on non-missions and all the net. In some case, though, nothing Lenigi, whatever. What Zagishi, Todison Bay, the Shehan Nihigi, so either little, scansion out, either little moment of silence at Lenigi. So, she have been between like it, and thank you. Any other announcements? I hear none. We'll go down to number 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. We'll have introductions for all, starting with honorable members of RDC. Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, committee members, and staff, everyone that's in attendance. This is Thomas Walker Jr., Western Navajo Agency, Dean Ko Ado Tas in the Liberty Katawisto, Anna Shagi, Luke, City Tonahali, Nana Ahasana, or Tsakon Hagi, Tsakon Hasana, the Olia. Ehota representation and Resource Development Committee, Jinan Jinson, Manzao, Alshba Jensen. I don't mention the issue and being between the issue that the thoughts of the issue dan Echo. That is gives nation that without the mention Koyat in another chair.
Yes, and Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Begay.
Chairman, Yate, Ado RDC member. Kudoshte Hanagan Eden and Shronki on the Ada Shazabit and the Shichiaro de Chine National Coco Kudosh Lao Sandatli, Patra the Shaki A Chistes Ado Tachi Pistotindeskis Ado Tsalan Tsalakades Nazlin Adodak Ahlan what I Kudosh and Anish Insen Kudosh. When that is called the Shashkado, Snan of Lengi, so Yat A Benedo Kudoshing at Anish Edas Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels.
Yeah, Nana Kodo, my brother, Chairman Nance, Kodo, yeah, Ado Kodo, Shit Kodo Herman Daniels Jr., don't know clinic a bit ahni. Do Kilchini, that's a Ask though, that's another. Toy Lini, not kind of night, that's a chay or that mensle, Nagradam or Jet ho, Shant ho, Flappy kin other than not of Anipa, Panasons. Oh, that is definitely good them. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Good morning, Chairman. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Go ahead.
I apologize, Chairman. Yate Benishnat, staff no Tanigi. Almost for everyone on the call this morning. Good morning. Shay Mark Freeland, the Shiro, do Tanigi Twitsoni, Snow Kia, Ani, Bushes Chain, Sandra Kinney, Dashe, about 10 Bethany, Ada Chanala, East Osikadi, and I shot 8 chapters, Hanoya, out of Eastern Agency, Crown Point, Don Nahadish I Basenti, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfinale, and Nayaza. Good morning to everyone out there, all of our chapters, especially to all the 110, including my 8, and everyone on the call. So God bless, and thank you again, Chief, for that prayer. Kiala, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Oh, good morning, Shania, Chairman. As Vice Chair, Shania, staff, all of you from the Solongi Ditcha, chapter officials, chapter community members, executive branch, that the employees, the supervisors, that on this morning. Jaya Wilson, C. Stewart Jr., A. and Cheto Hotel to that not shadow Akudo and Hijab next morning. But Hadashagi A. Tel the big El Chi, when it's a little Nihijid. But Hadasha Aro and the for Defense Agency also represent for the Resource Development Committee. Aro A. Twitzo the A. and Slendo Nanish as Kachini, a Bashas Chain Kachini, the Shache Dopi between the Chanela. For the prayers this morning. Could I have Shania, Chairman?
Honorable Stewart. Shaya, Rickness, and she had one son and slant or Zay Touching, Bashis Chain, Son Habitant, that should say, okay, on the Edashanella, as Tango chapters, Banash, Nishigi, Ayaha, Hogbat, San Juan, and Aniza, Upper Fruitland, Burnham, Don Newcomb. Welcome, everybody. We have 2 of our colleagues on the call with us this morning also. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, Setsila.
And then in Pima County, Resource and Development Committee. Ado, not so that's not angi. She gave us ne. She toba hanslon look up as is chain. Ki ani das che hadot as a fana dasnala. Ago trao. Hahot so go should ne sha is the ligeya chilchin be todo dana hot so ado twidenish aje ada should ne banasha ado the since dollar yeah shana ado Resource and Development Committee.
Thank you, Honorable Brown. Honorable Otto Show.
Good morning. Yat Ipina. I did I did Resources and Development Committee members. Yat Ipina do I did so also that's Jane. Now Kaina Toy Lenin Schnedo Nanish Edgekapa Bashin. Look at Ned as a trade or Sinachini the Shinal. I mentioned it. Yeah. Thank you. Then go on mute.
Thank you, Honorable So, Vice Chair So, and Chairman So. Adole So Hro, Tokto not Ani Nesto, Beshmahas Anin Deja, Honorable Chair Charles Noonan.
I am on the line, right, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair Yate, everyone on Resources and Development. This is Delegate Charles Newton representing Shiprock Tote. Donna and Sonigi Abit Ahni, Ashim Bashis Chain, Glass Che, I am on the line and I look forward to hearing what the committee has to present today.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Charles Newton. Are there any of our colleagues on the call? None. We'll go to our staff. Mr. Tahi.
Good morning, Chair, members of RDC, those online. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm the Legislative Advisor of Resource and Development Committee. I'm Kia'ani and Senja Kene, and I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Ms. Woody.
Good morning, Chair, Ado, Vice Chair, and RDC members. That listening here to Arnold. Kodoyat in hit the dish, Teresa Woody in Shiat, Le Steamboat, Ade Nasha, Kapan, Short Bethlehem, Bashin, Kiane, that should chedo, Tina that Chanel. I would on each at the house seed or late Ado Arnold. All those that are on call, welcome to RDC regular meeting. Thank you for joining us. I could only has it all, Mr. Chair, back to you.
Yeah, Ms. Woody, Ms. Khan. Ms. Khan. Okay, from Speaker's Office, Ms. Siako. Okay, we'll move right along here. From the Office of the President, Vice President, Mr. Philford.
Good morning, Chair, members of Resource and Development Committee, staff, and everybody that's on the line. David Philford, in Chicago, Office of the President, Vice President, Banashnas, as an Executive Staff Assistant. Ado quickly cheat and she don't ask you about his chain, but that's a chain to the chain, that's another. Ado, I'll be listening in and taking notes. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Philford. Mr. Holona from Land Department.
Good morning, Chair. Got Ben, out of Vice Chair, Delegate Walker, and all the honorable delegates that are on the line today, and all of those that are listening in from around the nation. Mike Holona, Ado. Didn't never care about that. Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Holona. We also have Dr. Crystal Tulik Cordova.
Oh, yeah, they benishing and Nalsaniki, she Crystal Tuli Cordova, Yanishia, Twitch eating the schlit at there's that neighbors chain, Hashkan had so had the shade to Higlini and the Chanel, Besto Christian Deshkish, Dent Nasha. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to our meeting today.
Thank you. We also have from the Department of Justice, Water Rights Unit, Ms. Michelle Brown-Yazzie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of RDC, Michelle Brown-Yazzie and Chia Tchachitin Shle, Anatlana Bashichin, Sinajani Dashache, Anatlana Dashanella. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yazzie. Anybody else from the Department of Justice? And Hakushila from Minerals, Ms. Chermaya.
Good morning, Honorable Chairman Nez, Honorable Delegates, Navajo Nation employees and guests. I'm Rowena Chermaya, Sanjikina, born for Laguna in Spanish, originally from Ganado, Arizona. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Prince, Minerals.
Good morning, honorable members of the Resources and Development Committee. I'm very glad to be able to be here and look forward to the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Timothy Begay.
Good morning. And good morning to all the listeners and people participating on this meeting. My name is Timothy C. Begay with the Navajo Nation Heritage and Historic Preservation Department. Good morning, Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Begay. Ms. Eddie Anderson from GLAD.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, RDC. This is Etty Anderson Abasta. Tana Bethany and Shan Hushkushti Bushishchin, Tutney Sakti Dashanella, Bilagana Dashache. Thank you, and I look forward to today's meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Robert Kirk.
Shay Robert Kirk Ainge, Yahado, Principal Hydrologist Ainge, Ado Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources, members of the RDC committee and staff and guests that are on the line.
Thank you. Ms. Tamara Billy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tamara Bailey. I'm a senior archaeologist with the Heritage and Historic Preservation Department.
Thank you. Lauren Bernelli. Lauren Bernelli, press *6. Then, do we have anybody from Division of Natural Resources? BIA, Mr. Mahoja. Ms. Curley. Anybody else on the call that wishes to introduce themselves, you're welcome.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Good morning, committee. My name is Eric Stanfield. I'm an anthropologist with Navajo Nation Heritage and Historic Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, honorable members of the RDC committee, as well as members of the council, as well as friends and family of the Navajo Nation. This is Chris Chitney. I'm a principal with Twosado LLC. We will be presenting later this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Deschini. Mr. David Sosi.
Oh, Ishta Nlila to Adonda, to Kishi Bishmasa Aneta Naso Taniki introduced that of Yaki Sheda no Lila, a Koyat Eto here, Shidi David J. Sosi when she got Hinani Turichini and Slon Tutsoni, Eda Shije, not or the net hatching in the Chedo Kia on the Edashanale. Lay back in the early 80s, yeah, down Bishmas on the Schlinde Tra. A call a Nan the Shadelia, a call Yat Edo here, Doshitado and Jonago Soto Zin, Edo here. A hunt air.
Thank you. We have Honorable Chair Amber Kennisbaugh-Crotty on the call. Honorable Amber Kennisbaugh-Crotty, press *6.
I did. Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that support. Yat A colleagues and relatives on the line. Kia ani nishla do bilagana bashis chin. Deschini desha che do bilagana desha nale. Shay Amber Kennisbaugh-Crotty and Ishe Hohasoi de Natsha. On the council, I represent Sheep Springs, Two Gray Hills, Tolina, Sanofti, Red Valley, Cove, Gadia, and Bakabato, 7 chapters of the Northern Agency. But we all represent our beautiful Navajo people across this great Mother Earth. So I appreciate the time and the energy, Chairman and committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayeza. We also have on the call Melissa Hollis.
Yes, hello. Good morning. Thank you for having us. I am a planner and project manager with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Good morning, and thank you for getting on the call. Ms. Elizabeth Dion.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Chair, Committee, members of RDC, participants, guests, Elizabeth Dion, Water Resource Planner here with the Corps of Engineers. We will be presenting later. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Waymiller.
Melissa Waymiller is also having some audio issues right now. She is a project manager with the Corps and is trying to recall in at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the call?
This is Mike Federoff.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hello, sorry about that feedback. This is Mike Federoff with the Tribal Nations Technical Center. Good morning, Honorable Chair, delegates, and members. I'm here to listen and support any type of core work in Navajo Nation. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good morning. Yat Ed Anatso. This is Mariana Khan. Dona and Slinigi A. Tuhiet Lini Nishle, but Anti Bashish Chin, Dash Che, Dash Che, Ten Jikina, Dash Nala. I hear he's so good morning and very happy to be with you and to assist in today's meeting. I will go on mute now.
Thank you, Ms. Khan, for being on the call with us. We're going to need your assistance today, so appreciate it. Anybody else on the call? I hear none. Honorable members of RDC, we'll go down to number 3 on the agenda. Mr. Tahi, could you read the agenda, sir?
Chair, members of RDC, the agenda reads as follows. Resource and Development Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting, Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, 10 a.m. Presiding, Honorable Ricky Nez, Chairperson. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Vice Chairperson. Location, via telecommunications. 1, call the meeting to order, roll call, invocation, and announcements. 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. 4, reviewing and approving the journals, February 9th, 2022. 5, receiving report. A, report on the Laguna Creek Water Resources Study, Callienta area by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer. B, report on the standard consideration amounts for commercial tribal access authorization, TAA, by the Navajo Nation Division of Natural Resources, Department of Minerals, executive session. C, report from the Navajo Nation Heritage and Historic Preservation Department on their plan to register the San Francisco Peak as a traditional culture property for the National Register of Historic Places. Eligibility. D, report on the approved study by the Navajo Nation Human Resources Review Board entitled A Cultural, Spiritual, and Health Impact Assessment of Oil Drilling Operation in the Navajo Nation areas of Counselor, Torreon, and Ojo Encino chapters. E, report on the Tohatchi Energy Center as a Nexus Energy project for combining agriculture, renewable energy, and hydrogen technologies. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. A, legislation number 0018-22, an action relating to resource and development and budget and finance committees, approving a change in Exhibit D to resolution resolution number CAP-35-18 for Telecommun chapter by deleting the chapter multi-purpose building project approved for 1 year and replacing it with a chapter lagoon project for 3 years. B, legislation number 0024-22, an action relating to resource and development, health, education, and human services, budget and finance, law and order, and non-brigade committees, and the Navajo Nation Council, amending the Navajo Nation Veterans Trust Fund at 12 NNC Section 1176 to create separate business unit numbers for when funding Navajo Veterans Organization. C, legislation number 0026-22, an action relating to Resource and Development Committee and non-brigade committee, requesting the state of New Mexico to utilize state revenue sources and federal revenue source to prioritize the study, design, and construction of US 64 from US 160 at Tisnas Boss, Arizona to US 491 in Shiprock, New Mexico, and the San Juan River replacement in Shiprock, New Mexico. D, rescheduling the Resource and Development regular meeting time on March 2nd, 2022 from 10 a.m. to 8 a.m. teleconference, and scheduling a special meeting on March 2nd, 2022 at 2 p.m. in person. E, approving a work session on the Corazon Four Corners Pump Hydro Project with Thomas Conwell, Thomas Taylor, and local chapter officials for Friday, April 8th, 2022 at 9 a.m. in person. 8, the close of meeting announcements and adjournment. Chair, that is the proposed agenda read into the record. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahe. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Chairman, I'll motion Freeland.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Second by? Second.
Chairman Callienta.
Thank you, Honorable Tenant. Do you have any comments or questions?
This is Daniels.
Honorable Daniels?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, the committee members, agenda the Sosaki. Nazaita Sahoya Kodo, Nihidish Kitchen Song Kodo, Shanat Senigi, Nazaita Count be at scale be got on so you about scale what did yesterday I kind of mentioned it the other day too. The Ray Halchita community. So those are burnt buildings, structures now. So that it's very unsafe to stop on the Ray. It's been like that for years. I don't know to make it worse. Utah Development Council, the lease for a number of years, 2024 that does not expire, and so it's clean up and let's clean up at that state that the all the very Halchita community, the very Mexican at Utah, the the high that is with the Navajo Nation EPA, so it is a Navajo Nation land department. So Mr. Chair, he can't on this good.
Honorable Daniel, so you want a tour Halchito, Halchito.
Halchita is about 24 miles north of Monument Valley, Missouri, going towards Blanding, Utah. It's right there, next to the San Juan River.
Okay. Amendment 1, motion in Ashwanda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I want to make that motion amendment.
Okay. Honorable Daniels requests a tour of Halchito community that it's unsafe, and he wants a tour with the lawn department located 24 miles north of Monument Valley, Utah. So we'll add that for approval. Is there a second on Amendment 1?
Chairman, I'll second Freeland.
Okay, Honorable Freeland, thank you. With that motion, Honorable Daniels and Honorable Freeland, we received an email in reference to Item E under reports, which is a report on the Tohatchee Energy Center as a Nexus Energy project combining agricultural, renewable energy, and hydrogen technologies. ADG, we received an email, and my recommendation is to delete this report off the agenda by Mr. Deschini, due to further review by the Department of Justice before it is presented to leadership, the Resources and Development Committee. Honorable Daniels, would you concur?
Mr. Chair, yes, I concur.
Okay. Honorable Freeland?
I'll be good, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. What we will do is once the Department of Justice reviews that, we can put it back on the agenda. So with Amendment 1, Halchito Community Tour with Land Department located 24 miles north of Monument Valley, Utah. We would like to schedule that and add that to the agenda for approval today. And also delete under reports. Delete under reports E. So with that, honorable members of RDC on Amendment 1, do you have any comments or questions?
Rick Nez, this is Curtis Yanito with the UNDC Director.
Mr. Yanito, this is for leadership to have a discussion on Amendment 1. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes. When you come,
Mr. Yanito, this is for RDC's discussion, Quaggy. So, no comments or questions. We'll go ahead and vote on it. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Calwood Scream.
Honorable Daniels.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries on Amendment 1. Back to the main motion. I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Calwood Scream.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. We do have an approved agenda before us. We're on number 4 of the agenda, reviewing and approving journals from February 9 that were sent to us by Ms. Whitty. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Chair, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Thank you. Any comments or questions? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Calwood Scream.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries to approve the journals from February 9, 2022. We're on number 5 of receiving reports. If you wish to go to new business first, I'd like to have a motion to suspend the floor rules.
Motion, Daniel.
Honorable Daniel, could you state that for the record?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the floor rules and go to legislation first and other items after that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion by Honorable Daniels, second by Honorable Freeland to suspend the floor rules and go directly to new business. Any comments or questions? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Calwood Scream. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. And I will go directly to number 7, new business. The first legislation will be legislation 0018-22. Sponsor, Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Are you still on the call? Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
That's enough.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Tahi, could you read this legislation in for the record, please?
Chair members of RDC, you have legislation summary sheet, tracking number 0018-22. Date November 18th, 2021. Title of the legislation, in action relating to resource and development and budget and finance committees, approving a change in Exhibit D to resolution number CAP-35-18 for Chinchishmanto project, approved for 1 year and replacing it with a Chapter Lagoon project in 3. Purpose of this legislation, to approve a change in Exhibit D in resolution number CAP-35-18 to delete the Chinchishmanto Chapter Multipurpose Building project in year 1 and replace it with a sewer lagoon project in year 3. No change in the original approved amount of $300,000. Chair members of RDC, Budget and Finance has final authority over this legislation, which will be read into the record in entirety. This legislation is sponsored by Honorable Nathaniel Brown, tracking number 0018-22, an action relating to resource and development and budget and finance committees, approving a change in Exhibit D to resolution number CAP-35-18 for Chinchishmanto chapter by deleting the chapter multipurpose building project approved for year 1 and replacing it with a Chapter Lagoon project in year 3. In section 1 outlines the authority. In section 2, it outlines the findings, which includes an Exhibit 1, 2. In section 3 is the approval, which includes Exhibit 2. The effective date, in section 4 is the effective date. In section 5 is the savings clause. Attaches Exhibit 1, which is Sisa Sun Fund Power Line and Chapter Capital Project Expenditure Plan. Exhibit 2 is the Capital Project Management Department, the Sisa Sun Project Amendment Certification CAP-35-18. And you have the first report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary, legislation number 0018-22. The sponsor is Honorable Nathaniel Brown. This legislation was posted on January 25th, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended January 30th, 2022. There was no comment supporting this legislation. There was no comments opposing this legislation, and there was no comments or recommendation on this legislation. Chair, that is legislation tracking 0018-22 read into the record. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahe. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Chairman, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by
Kiel.
Honorable Begay. Are there any comments or questions on this legislation? This legislation goes to Budget and Finance. They have final authority on this. One twice. Going 3 times. Okay, we'll put it to a vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Kiel votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Brown. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, we'll move down.
a Resource and Development Committee. Thank you.
Oh, we're on B. legislation 0024-22. Sponsor Honorable Begay and co-sponsor by Honorable Amber Kenneth Crotty. Honorable Begay, are you present?
Chairman, I'm present, but I did request that I still need to continue do presentation to all the veterans across the Navajo Nation, just so that every veterans and the public have an understanding of the all of these four. It will be four legislation will potentially overlap each other for group presentations. And so again, like I said, I asked the committee if we could be able to not entertain any motion. Still, I need to present these to the veterans organization across the Navajo Nation. Chairman, that's my request.
Okay, Honorable Begay, we'll go ahead and have it read into the record, just for the record. And colleagues, if they wish not to motion, that will be their prerogative. Thank you. Mr. Tahi, you read this? Yes.
Question, sorry, apologize, Chairman. With no motion, does that mean that the legislation?
No. Drew was saying 1 o'clock instead. He has a meeting at 2:45.
Please mute your phones. Mr. Tahi, could you mute them when they start interrupting? Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, thank you. With no motion, does it kill the legislation? I guess is my question. I don't want the legislation to die, but does that mean that this legislation would get killed? If that's the case, question mark. Thank you, Chairman. I hate to use the word kill.
Only if it's been tabled twice. It hasn't been tabled. So we'll go ahead and have Mr. Tahi read this into the record.
Mr. Chair, this is Mariana Khan.
Ms. Khan, you have the floor.
Thank you for this interruption. I am looking for the exact language with regard to no motion and what happens to the legislation. And just give me 1 minute here. I'm just rereading the section. Would be in 164A. One additional moment now, I'm looking into the rules, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would like to read Rule 10 with regard to main motion, paragraph C. If there is no motion to adopt after a second call by this, I see. I'm reading the council rules. Just a second, let me grab the standing committee rules. Mr. Chair, with regard to the, yes, Mr. Chair.
Khan, before you move forward, I believe that we have done this before, to where we took a legislation that was that needed to go before the public. We even do that at Navajo with the helium. It was requested to go take it back to the community so they can have an input. And for this legislation, thinking, would it be appropriate to make a motion to defer this until after we have had public hearings for veterans on this issue? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, your recollection, I believe, is correct in that certain standing committees have deferred legislation. However, I would like to point out that there is no provision for that type of action within the standing committee rules. The Nabik Iyatya has additional authorities to refer back to committees with particular instructions about what that committee is supposed to do. Other standing committees do not have that particular authority with regard to deferring legislation in the manner that is being described today. Mr. Chair, I do understand that this has been done in particular instances before. However, I do want to make the committee aware that there is no provision for this to happen at the standing committee level. The rules say it shall be placed on the agenda, and if there's no first or second, it will be removed and from the agenda. And there are certain repercussions with the removal. Mr. Chair, that is what I have to offer at this moment. Of course, the Navajo Nation Council and the delegates are free to amend their rules, but however, that would take a council resolution for amendment for this in this particular case. I just want you to be made aware that as Delegate Freeland has said, if there is no motion and no second, the rules state that the legislation will be automatically stricken from the committee agenda. And it does not say whether it comes up again. It just says it's stricken from the agenda.
Okay, so Ms. Khan, it would be safe to have no motion or a second in order for it just to be removed from the agenda, correct?
According to this reading here, a motion and second commences the presentation. If there's no motion and no second, there's no presentation, Mr. Chair. So at this point, I would say that that reading would be helpful in this situation.
Thank you, Ms. Khan, for that. Mr. Tahi, could you read this legislation 0024-22 into the record, please?
Chair, members of RDC, this legislation tracking number 0024-22 was read into the record on February 9th, 2022 at Asehili Wheatsfield chapter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, there a motion and a second? Going twice. Going three times, it will be off the agenda. D, legislation 0026-22. Honorable Charles Noon, Chair Charles Noon, are you still on the call?
I am on the call, Chair Naz. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tahi, go ahead and read this in for the record, please.
Chair, members of RDC, you have legislation summary sheet tracking number 0026-22, date February 2nd, 2022. Title of the legislation, a proposed standing committee resolution, an action relating to Resource and Development Committee and Nabiket Committee, requesting the state of New Mexico to utilize state revenue source and federal revenue source to prioritize the study, design, and construction of US 64 from US 160 at Tisnaspas, Arizona to US 491 in Shiprock, New Mexico, and the San Juan River replacement in Shiprock, New Mexico. The purpose of this legislation is to request the state of New Mexico to utilize a state revenue source and federal revenue source, including the Virus Relief Fund, the COVID-19 stimulus package, and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to prioritize the study, design, and construction of US 64 from US 160 at Tisna, Arizona to US 491 in Shiprock, New Mexico, and the San Juan River replacement at Shiprock, New Mexico. Chair, members of RDC Nominate Committee has final authority over this legislation, will be read into the record in its entirety. The sponsor of this legislation is Eugenia Charles Newton, tracking number 0026-22. An action relating to Resource and Development Committee.
Do an amendment or do anything, I guess.
Please mute your phones. Ashwada, please mute your phones. Thank you. Mr. Tahi?
An action relating to a Resource and Development Committee, a NABICIT committee, requesting the state of New Mexico to utilize state revenue sources and federal revenue sources to prioritize the study, design, and construction of US 64 from US 160 at Tisna, Arizona to US 491 in Shiprock, New Mexico, and the San Juan River replacement in Shiprock, New Mexico. Section 1 outlines the authority. Section 2 lists the findings. And Section 3 is the approval. The first report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary on Legislation 0026-22, sponsor Honorable Eugene Charles Newton. This legislation was posted on February 10th, 2022 at 10:33 a.m. The 5-day comment period ended February 15th, 2022. There was no comment supporting this legislation. There was no comment opposing this legislation, and there was no comments or recommendation on this legislation. The chair members of RDC, that is legislative tracking number 0026-22 read into the record. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, this legislation moves on to NABICIT committee. Let's have a motion and a second.
Motion, Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, motion, second by
Freeland. Chairman Kelly.
Honorable Freeland. Yeah. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions on this legislation?
Chairman,
twice.
Freeland.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Chair Charles Newton, you have 20 minutes to present.
Thank you, Chair Naz and members of the RDC committee. This legislation is before you at this time, legislation 0026-22. The purpose of this legislation is to ask the state of New Mexico and the federal government to include both of these projects into their listing when it comes to getting money, I guess when it comes to allocating funds to the various projects across the Navajo Nation. The first project that is listed is the US 64 road construction. That was actually, we did get full funding for that the last time I was in Washington, D.C. This legislation actually went to Dana a few months ago prior to me going to D.C., but it's coming up, and I'm still hoping that we can get some support resolution from NABICIT. I just want to make it clear that I am not asking for funds from the Navajo Nation. These are specifically for the state of New Mexico and also for the federal government. As stated already, US 64 is on the listing and has recently received the $25 million. So I know that they may be a little bit short with the project, but the 25 million is enough to get them started and actually almost completed. I did meet with Paul Brashear, who is the director for the New Mexico Department of Transportation. We met several times. Our last meeting was on January 14th, 2022. At that time, he did inform me that the funding that they have received is good, and at this point, it is enough. However, he did caution that because of the rising prices that's happening right now across the United States because of COVID, there is a possibility that we may be short about 8 to 9 million, but he's not anticipating that as of this point. The project for the US 64, the 25 million did come out of the build grant. And so they are starting to work on that project from milepost 0 to 8.4, which includes the Red Wash Bridge, which is going to be phase 1. They do have 4 phases that have been identified. There technically was 6, but they put 2 phases into 1. So at this point, he did inform me that they're looking at 4 phases to be completed. What I'm kind of focused on now is the Shiprock Bridge. The Shiprock Bridge was built in the 1950s and is slated to be retired. This is the bridge that has the arch over. To build a new bridge is going to be $29.2 million that will be needed by 2026. The New Mexico Department of Transportation is looking at 2026 because that's going to be the last year that the arch bridge will be open, which means we'll only have the one bridge available. The concern that has come across the community is that if anything were to happen to that bridge, all of the first responders are on one side of the community, which is the north, and then of course the north side of the Shiprock community. The south side of the community would not have any first responders or any type of equipment or any type of assistance if anything were to happen to that bridge. It was mapped out by the first responders, by the Navajo Nation, that in the event that anything were to happen to that bridge, that they would have to travel all the way down to Ninahanzad, cross the bridge there, and come back around in order to make it to the north side where all of our first responders are located. So I say all of our first responders because we have Northern Navajo Medical Center, we have the police department, we have the fire department, we have EMT, all on the north side of Shiprock. So this bridge is, again, slated to be retired. We need $29.2 million to get this bridge up and going. I have scheduled meetings with the federal, I think it's the Road Transportation Department. We are working on that. I'm working with Carlisle, but it would help if we had a support resolution from council stating that this bridge is a priority. They are currently looking at the priorities for the various communities, and at the federal government, they did identify the US 64 as a priority, but at the state level, it hasn't been identified yet. So we have the opportunity to get the Shiprock Bridge on the state projects for the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Again, because the bridge is slated to be retired until 2026, we oftentimes here at council wait till the very last minute. I'm working to try to get this funding secured. 30% of the plan has been set and has been received. The RFP to complete the remaining amount will be going out in May, where the consultants will complete 30 to 100% of the construction plans. The bridge will be shifted to the south side of the current bridge that is up, and they are working right now to identify the right-of-way. And again, because it's slated to retire in 2026, we are working right now to secure the funds and to also complete the construction plan and design and the right-of-way. So when it comes time, that bridge will be ready to be built. Right now, the New Mexico Department of Transportation, it is going before the state of New Mexico for design funds. However, because they can't advocate to the governor. It puts them in a difficult situation, which is why we did meet to talk about the bridge. I brought this up, Chair Nance, as you know, I did bring this up when we had our discussion with the governor on Monday of the importance of this bridge and also the shortfalls. And she said that she would look into it to see if that bridge is being identified as one of the projects for the state of New Mexico for the infrastructure funds that were coming down to the state of New Mexico. So that's what I have at this time. Again, I have been working with Mr. Bashir from the New Mexico Department of Transportation in terms of replacing this bridge. I also want to point out that the title of this legislation is wrong, because it does say to the San Juan River replacement. It's supposed to be the San Juan River Bridge replacement in Shiprock, New Mexico. But I didn't realize that until it was being read into the record, and I heard Mr. Tahi read that. So with that, again, I have been working with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. I do have a USB stick of the entire plan design. The New Mexico Department of Transportation shared that information with me when I met with Senator Lujan and then also Senator Heinrich. We did talk about the various projects here in Shiprock. And when I met with them, it was a question of which projects for, I guess, New Mexico was going to be identified, and the US 64 was a priority because it does impact 3 other communities in the state of New Mexico. So I'm hoping now with the bridge replacement, we can get that bridge replacement project on the listing for the state of New Mexico as the funding from the federal government comes down. So with that, I do stand for questions.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Charles Newton. Honorable Freeland, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you,
Honorable
Chairman.
Freeland.
Sorry, I'm having challenges with being muted this morning. My apologies. I'm on the road too as well. Thank you for this legislation. It's very important, and understanding your advocacy and understanding that you really want the bridge to be replaced, as well as 64. And I think my older brother, Honorable Daniels, can probably speak to that. But just knowing that the state of New Mexico, through NMDOT, but more importantly through the districts, and you mentioned Mr. Bashir as the district engineer. We also have Mr. Maynard out of District 6 or District 5. Having the 2 districts fall within the Navajo Nation, that's something that we brought up in DC to the Transportation Department. A lot of our U.S. highways, these U.S. highways go through the nation. 371 is a good example. When inclement weather hits it, it creates a lot of potholes. And, Honorable Edmund Yazzie did do a legislation to have that whole 371 corridor, which falls in District 5 and District 6, repaved as well. So understandably, we need some help. And of course, your legislation is very important to that. Speaks to the bridge especially. Just keep in mind that our colleagues as well, the states are also using the Navajo Nation population as counts to get ARPA money. This was something I asked in Phoenix, and I'm going to ask in Santa Fe as well. How much of our Navajo people do they use to report to the federal government to get ARPA money? Yes, we got our own ARPA money through our own counts, but the state is also getting funds from the Navajo people as well, or on behalf of the Navajo people. So I'm glad that we're going to, ask them to pay for things like this, because our Navajo people do utilize these routes and utilize these bridges. So they do need to be held to that standard and accountable, because they are getting money from ARPA, from our Navajo counts. So it's a real important consideration and factor that we need to be reminded of. Arizona's the same way, and I'm sure Utah's the same way as well. All the tribal members that live within those states, the 3 states, and especially New Mexico, are getting federal money that are going to Santa Fe. So just keep that in mind. I do support the legislation, and I just wanted to make that comment as well because it's a very important consideration that we need to be reminded of. I am on my way to meet with the governor today, but I'll go ahead and mention it to her as well once more, Shadeja, and appreciate your advocacy as well. Chairman, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland, for that. Honorable Begay, you have the floor, sir.
Chairman, again, Honorable. Although legislation Daniel Sozaki, I really don't have a problem with that one. I do support the legislation. Delegate Newton Sozaki. And also, I just want to ask the New Mexico, I don't want to say delegates that goes to New Mexico governor, what's your strategy in meeting with the open door policy of meeting with the governor? So I wish I could say that. I'm going down to Phoenix to meet with the governor. That's a year. That's continue to ask to meet with the Arizona governor on several issues, including roads and broadband. But anyway, the Kodob Nilsozaki, we know, Chairman, we have, I don't know if Mr. Silversmith is on the line, NDOT. Don't mean to delay or disrupt the process, the intent of the legislation. Mr. Freeland, each state, what we've been pushing, and I did ask our legislative council, I have asked the legislative council to across the Navajo Nation, to improve roads across the Navajo Nation. And I believe Mr. Silversmith has roughly $1.5 something billion worth of road projects, not just only new paved roads, but there's a preservation road and then dirt road, other bridges. That's another area. As RDC, do we continue to push to have a position statement that these are the major routes that we need to improve? Just 64, having traveling through there, it does need to be probably at the level of having to be a 4-lane road now. But our Navajo Nation Department of Transportation, as an RDC oversight, sometimes I'm sure local delegates, each chapter, which is good. And then that's when the department and Mr. Freeland a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we spoke directly with the United States Department of Transportation, and they did make a recommendation that we talk directly with the state, because a lot of these funding will be funneled through the state. How much of it? The overall Navajo Nation, do we set aside to say that, okay, these are the roads that, for example, 64, this is a state how many roads, additional road in the state of New Mexico, and then on the state of Arizona side, in Utah. And then when about almost a year ago, when we met with Senator Romney, I sent an email directly to RDC, and he specifically asked for the road in the Delegate Daniels region Eilachit Elachaj Narthosen Liniki in Hitchon to Lili Hidin Nidne. Ko 8 Aita in that Narthosiki Mina Hanaki Bichlan did Kodos Senator Romney had on Hitchahazi specifically for Navajo Road in the Monument Valley area. Dasha in so a call a lachit, and then Adoni Kodo Dalget Noon Yahananazi that certain applications are not the hospital. I believe it was called Tiger Grant first, and then now Bill Grant, and now I think it's FIRST. I think that's acronym of the their current, and the deadline for that one is February or March. A koko end kodo the quid she bahasi halit al kodo Navajo Nation kodo the quid she dan tiniki hasned la eya liniki kodo hadahatalia do kodo approve it lia a koko jodi that a latte hit all la koje yard liniki ato jobe da ho latte ato jobe da ho zinkuko we make public notice in the lamp based on hante hatni, which is good. But I think the Diego baby chin that has got out a base of the door right away that I thought that Nako Kodo or the nep baby wheel. No, sometimes we say that, well, yeah, we got the money, but we still haven't approved the right of way that need us. And that's an area that we're continuing to be dealing with, because I don't know if the state of New Mexico delegates do their presentation or advocacy to the New Mexico Department of Transportation, as we do or I do to the Arizona Department of Transportation. The state right of way Zikilahit Saton based on Lindigin Habaka Hosela Joti no the Bayel Kisla. A coco with that Haki Chairman Kodo be mainly a question to ourselves that how do we don't disrupt some progress that some of our colleagues are working on, but yet at the same time we need to make a position of which are the main artery of the road on the Navajo Nation. And then the other area, Kodo, Ms. Charles Newton, maybe one area that you could maybe my request, and I believe, I don't know if Ms. Crotty is on the line. I know she attended the meeting that I've missed last Friday in Flagstaff regarding the broadband on Smart Highway. No. And that's another recommendation that came from the federal government last week when we were in D.C. Dig at him, but the initial alongside up Pesco Cojes Smart Highway Niniki Pestel Teslo Peso Sato that I'm not sure if you're comfortable in making that effort. Cojet Nikki, because the main one that we're looking at for New Mexico is the 491 and the road, I forgot the name of it, and the road to Crown Point to Farmington. On the 24th counties, and myself, Ms. Fowler, and myself were conducting another meeting on the New Mexico side regarding broadband. Bedding care that's upon it, so that's it. So, on such case, did any road a coco jota icheko and that cheko go the strategy for that, Ms. Noon, is that once the state lays out the main line, that's the strategy that the Navajo Nation don't need to spend money, but the main artery line has been established, then we can start tapping into these lines for our Navajo people that lives in that area. So that's the other area that I'm requesting and suggesting to my colleague when we're talking about road improvement, when we're talking about road, Kodo Tin Linigi, it up hospital, Sato, Dika broadband, Hatnigi stop Sato, Pitahas, based on Linigi, Babini, Kato, that's it, stop big and so on, such case, because look at the what and everything's technology, Hatne. Tika the hot arch, ya del Tikada, she, Daisy Tom, Kodo, ya del Tikit, Rosata, the Kodo Nashit, but on the Navajo Nation, only Hakaya, Mina, Hilia, Hotel, or Tottenham, so, ya chairman, there's two main areas that Kodo, Bahasi, Gilahit, or any Hilato, baby, not any pinto list, because I know a lot of these built funding or first transportation applications are due pretty soon, and I'm just wondering which project is the Navajo Nation submitting on behalf of the Navajo Nation, because in my area, each of my 5 chapters needs new road, especially in the low mountain to Palaka, Blue Gap. Sanani Khan with Nalzin in many forms, arts for Kodo, a teen, not in it, and but what end it all a bait kidney, Kato, it all a jo, il nesla, a coco, D that's a Arjabin, Nikata, at 64. And if there needs to be more fundings, how much is it that we still need to continue to include that particular road projects in the overall positions of the Navajo Nation for the new road project, the preservation road project, and the bridges and the dirt road? I thought that's one thing. Dirt road, the key for graveling. So it could how actually end up and then that's where the state and the county comes into play as well in getting a lot of this funding. Based on which I thought Nakilahit Abelskita the Nisto Belskita the Kodo Tin Linigi, but they need Nisto list. So Kodo, again, I just want to be on record on this particular statement of Kodo legislation Hitani, so Zibin Nachi Bahanana seat or the chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Begay. Let me go back to the sponsor, Honorable Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Delegate Begay, for the information and then also the comments that you made. So right now, with this particular, with the bridge, there are the 3 funding sources that came down to the state of New Mexico, and just so you know, the bridge in Shiprock is a state of New Mexico, I guess, a bridge. That entire US 64 is a state road. And so the state of New Mexico did receive the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. They did receive money for that. They also received American Rescue Plan Act money, which is the ARPA money. And they also received the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act money. Right now, the state of New Mexico is preparing by putting together project listings that they are going to be funding. And so what I'm asking the state of New Mexico is that in that listing that they include the Shiprock Bridge, because right now it is not included. It is not part of the listing, is our understanding from the New Mexico Department of Transportation. And so I did talk to the governor about that, and I did ask, that we include the bridge, because we don't want to, at the last minute, be asking for funding to get this bridge going. And once the design is completed, they can actually start working on the bridge. I don't want them to wait until 2026 when the bridge is retired. My hope is by addressing this early, using the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act money, the bipartisan infrastructure framework, the bipartisan infrastructure deal that was passed on November 15th. By using that money, they'll be able to replace the bridge sooner as opposed to waiting until the last minute. So I do agree that there are a lot of Navajo Nation roads that do need to be addressed, and that that the Navajo Nation Department of Transportation, they did release their TTIP project listing, and I think that those are like two separate issues. Again, this legislation is specifically for the federal government and for the state of New Mexico to ask that these two projects be listed. But as I stated earlier, the US 64, that was already listed by the federal government. That was a need, and thankfully the funding, was released to them. But the bridge is not. We did apply for the Tiger Grant 2 times when it was called the Tiger Grant. And we missed out on both of them. We also applied for the Build grant. We were not selected in that. And so now the New Mexico Department of Transportation is looking to the state of New Mexico for their, for their infrastructure funds that were passed down by the federal government to the state of New Mexico. That's one pot of money that they're looking at. The other one is, as you stated, the new grant that is currently open. But this legislation would help to bolster it, because it would say that the Navajo Nation does support this project. And again, I'm as delegates, we try to look outside of the box, and we try to work with the various funding sources that are coming down the pipeline. In this case, there are two. That's the state of New Mexico funding, and then also the grant. And I can't remember the name of the grant. But if this legislation goes through NABI with approval, then we can attach this to the grant to let them know that the Navajo Nation is in support of receiving grant funding to get the bridge replaced. So again, I hope that clarifies a lot of what is happening in terms of the various projects, with the state of New Mexico and across the Navajo Nation. I do support that. I didn't know about the the Flagstaff meeting last week. I wasn't aware of that. If I knew about that, I would have been in attendance. I am in support of that with broadband. And so I think you mentioned I think it might be March 24th is what you mentioned is going to be the meeting that you are planning to put together. That is actually, I have it down on my calendar as Navik Iatkat Day, because per the code, we do meet on the second and fourth Thursday of every month. But I am willing to attend and advocate for that, as they are important projects that does affect a lot of our Navajo people and our Navajo families, especially the Navajo students, who are really just having a really difficult time trying to connect to internet to do work through school. And then, with everybody being on the internet these days and using it for various reasons, I think we do need to increase our bandwidth and our capacity. So I am in support of that. So with that, Chair Naz, again, I hope that I was able to answer the questions and the concerns posed by Delegate Kiel and Begay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Charles Newton. Honorable members of RDC, are there any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kudo, my brother, Kudo, the Chairman Nance, Kudo, members of the Resources and Development Committee, Kudo, Chairwoman Charles Newton, Kudo, Kudo, legislation, Kudo, this is a very good legislation, Kudo. Some of us, we traveled that road from Manama Valley, to Callienta, Navajo. That's the only road. We're going to go into Farmington. That's the only road that we utilize. So from the state line between Eastern Spence and Betlabito, right there, the state line, beginning from there, New Mexico state line, out on the Shiprock. This road really needs attention. Adonana Kudo, Ani Kudo, Yayadashi Kudo, my colleagues Kudo, was Kudo within my region, Jay Yanaveda, Manama Valley. Adaquio Shiban Business. Really appreciate the help from the former governor, Kudo, Gary Herbert. Adonana Kudo senators that Lenigi, they came out here. Stand up at the no couldn't say. At that time, there was no roundabout. It was only a four-way stop intersection. Well, there was a stop sign on the side, and on the other side there was a stop sign. But the Highway 163 just runs through that intersection. So it was dangerous. It was very unsafe. There was a lot of accidents that occurred right there at that intersection. Even we requested for a roundabout, or maybe even a stoplight at but they roundabout. At that time, Gary Herbert came out to Manama Valley. We met with him, and that's when he said, let's work on that roundabout. Let's work on that junction. He made a call. Oh, they now have a year. Construction started. $2 million was allocated for the roundabout. But AIC, the governor of Utah at that time, Gary Herbert. I don't know, at the same time, Utah Division of Transportation, they allocated $2 million for Mexican Hat Bridge upgrade. So that at that time with law and order, not supposed to have a seat. Law and order, they came to Manama Valley, and they looked at the intersection at that time too. Now, so that 2 weeks later, the Utah senators and representatives, they came to Mexican Water chapter, and that's when I gave all those documents to the senators, representatives. They so indicated them. Dollars were allocated for Manama Valley roundabout and also Mexican Hat Bridge upgrade. Within the state of Utah is Delegate Charlene So's region. Highway 161, from the Colorado state line. Four Corners, Colorado state line. Don't Bluff, Utah. And I see that a priority. That's one of my priorities. That's one of Delegate Charlene's priority. So, AIC state of Utah. I know that at roads on the Navajo Nation, U.S. highways are very unsafe in some areas, just like between Utah and very safe. I say that the shoulder than that road. So that Ecuador I see the his name so they be Ecuador his coordinate Jaco 24th Council. So Ecuador, I really support this legislation. Ecuador, the Nanagi, our Navajo people travel they utilize that road when they go into Shiprock, going to Farmington. So I mean, Ecuador, I don't know that. We'll see maybe kids. They don't basically buy any kid or Ecuador. When we go to the capital, Santa Fe, Dakota, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Arizona. What that Ecuador? So Ecuador, I see the Ecuador. Another road that we're working on is the proposed road project, the Ojeto to Nasasan road project, and that's going to cost over $100,000. 100 million, excuse me, 100 million. So not about 114 million, maybe more. So just the other day, Senator Hinkins, he went before Infrastructure, General Government Appropriation Subcommittee. He thought on the asking for $4 million for EIS for the road project. The road project between Ojeto and Navajo Mountain. Environmental impact studies statement. So it thought on the out of a kid Representative Phil Lyman. He requested for $2 million again for the bridge again, Halls Crossing Marina to Both Rock Marina. Bridge is all national. So Ecuador saying the or Navajo Nation, so you see that Ecuador. So Ecuador the state of Utah. I see Ecuador work closely with the senators, those representatives, last administration, Governor Herbert myself, Honorable Philford, and other leaders, Utah leaders that litigate the 8 tribes of Utah. At that time, Honorable Philford was the chair of the Utah tribal leaders. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Pero the legislation Representative Claudius Chilich basic auto, I believe it was Senator Scher. This legislation is before us, so it's good that we're finally going to have some roads near Shiprock. That road is a dangerous road right there. So there's a lot of roads on the nation that really needs repairs as well. Bridges also. So back to you, Honorable Chair Charles Newton. Honorable Chair Charles Newton.
Chair Naz, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you again for the support of this legislation. I just want to say that we all know as delegates that when we have projects that do come before us, many times they might be rushed projects, meaning money is needed immediately in order to complete projects or in order to address issues. In this situation, with this legislation, I am trying to, I guess, address the issue ahead of time so that, we're not running around at the last minute. And this bridge is so important to not only the Shiprock community, but to the, to the people who travel on this road. And so when we had talked about this, when this issue did come forward, with the expansion of US 64 up to the state line of Arizona, and then also the bridge, we know the importance of these 2 projects and again how they impact the various communities in Northern Agency, but also, just across the Navajo Nation, we have so many people who do come through Shiprock, and so we know that the US 64 expansion from the Arizona state line into Shiprock, as well as the Shiprock Bridge, are very crucial to interstate travel, to travel in general. And so again, as delegates, we try to think outside of the box and not try to depend so much on Sihistan or the Navajo Nation funds. In this case, we are just basically trying to start gathering funding now and not have to wait at the last minute. And this support will be sent to the state of New Mexico, letting them know that we do support it, as well as to the federal government, letting them know that these two projects are very important to the community and to the Navajo Nation. They are not Navajo Nation projects. They are not chapter projects. They are state, state roads. So it's very important that we make that clear to them that, that this is outside of our, I guess, I don't want to say jurisdiction, but it's outside of what we normally fund. And so I hope that I do get a favorable vote from RDC and also Nabikiatsket for this project so that I can start advocating at the federal and state level for these two projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Charles Newton. Mr. Tahi, we do have an amendment, so could you read that in for the record, please?
Chair, members of RDC, this is amendment number 1 on legislation 0026-22. 1. Page 1, line 16, insert the word bridge between river and replacement as follows. The San Juan River Bridge replacement in Shiprock, New Mexico. 2. Page 4, line 8, insert the word bridge between river and replacement as follows. 491 in Shiprock, New Mexico, and the San Juan River Bridge replacement at Shiprock, New. 3. Page 4, line 16, insert the word bridge between river and replacement as follows. Shiprock, New Mexico, and the San Juan River Bridge replacement at Shiprock, New Mexico. Chair, that is amendment number 1 read into the record. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second for amendment 1.
Motion, Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, thank you. Second by?
Chair, I'll second.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker, thank you. Any comments or questions on the amendment? I hear none. Let's put it to a vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green. Received a text message. Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Honorable, thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable Daniels. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries for amendment 1. Back to the main motion, Shananta. Any other comments or questions?
Chair Naz, this is Delegate Charles Newton. Can I just say thank you very quickly?
Most certainly. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Naz, and thank you, members of the RDC committee. I do appreciate your favorable vote on this legislation, and I hope that I can count on you to vote green when it gets to Nabikiatsket. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Yes, my call dropped. I got back on. I vote green.
Okay. Honorable Daniels votes green. So the vote changes from a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting on amendment 1. We're on the main motion now. I hear none. We'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay text his vote in as green. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Green, we have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries on legislation 0026-22. Thank you. Honorable Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. On to D, rescheduling the Resource and Development regular meeting time on March 2, 2022 from 10 a.m. to 8 a.m. teleconference and scheduling a special meeting on March 2 at 2:00 p.m. in person. Motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by?
Freeland. Second. Ben.
Honorable Freeland. Any comments or questions? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay? Honorable Daniels?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Honorable Stewart? Honorable Begay? Texting his vote as green. Honorable Stewart?
Green chair, sorry.
We have a green?
Yes, Chairman, green.
Okay. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. Thank you. E, approving a work session on the Carrizo Four Corners Pumped Hydro Project with Thomas Conroy, Thomas Taylor, and local chapter officials for Friday, April 8th at 9 a.m. in person. Motion?
Motion. Freeland. Daniel. I second.
Honorable
Chair.
Daniels. Second by Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Any comments or questions? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay? Honorable Begay, text in his vote green. Honorable Daniels?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Shenandoah Halchito Community is next under F. To have a tour of the area. It's located 24 miles north of Monument Valley, Utah. And Mr. Ty, if you would find us a date, but let me get a motion and a second first. Motion?
Chairman, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by?
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland. Thank you. Mr. Tahi, do you have a date for us for the tour?
Chair member of RDC, we can propose the date of Monday, April 4th or Monday, April 11th.
Okay. Perhaps the sooner the better. So we'll go with the 4th. Abby, Honorable Daniels, April 4th.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much, Kodo. Adonana Kodo Nagaita, the tour of Palchita. Yesterday, we were here in the field, and we have a bunch of the community, the Christian health and the Christian medical. That actually can deal that the Christian out of course over there. Actually, it's not hot every night. Hello. It's not hot. It's very unsafe. Especially got passing at Diego out of uranium. That's the set that building from that. 8 or 10 days. Actually, for you not 80 years could on the data. But the niche is I go. The sooner the better, though. Lesson 5. Could have been Nanaki. Or yet, at the community level. I don't know at the local level. So, I don't know, leaf, Elias, although Toba Hayada, leaf feet or Yahaliada at then. Oh, it's been years. There's no building that gone. It's been years. Oh, what Arsenal. Oh, it is about Bashan. I actually, Mr. Chair.
Honorable Daniels, April 4 is the earliest, but Mr. Tahi, if we could shift the schedules around, what we can do is approve it today, and we can shift some dates around, perhaps in early March. Mr. Tahi?
Chair members of RDC, once we approve this site tour, I can start moving the calendar around, especially if we're going to be in the eastern area of the Navajo, western area of the Navajo Nation. I will report back to RDC on that date. And if we need to make any additional adjustments, it will be on RDC's next meeting so that we can approve those adjustments as well. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll select April 4. Mr. Tahi will make the adjustments. So we'll go ahead and approve this tour first. There's a motion by Honorable Vice Chair Walker, second by Honorable Freeland. Any other questions, Shananta? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green on his text message. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. I believe we're done with new business, and I will go back to reports. First on the report will be A, report on the Laguna Creek Water Resources Study, Callienta area by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Presenters will be Dr. Crystal Tully Cordova, as well as from the Army Corps of Engineers, we have Ms. Elizabeth Dion, as well as Melissa Waymiller. So at this time, Dr. Crystal Tully Cordova and your agents, you have 20 minutes.
Nana, Shanant Ae. And I just wanted to share, as Delegate Eugenia Charles Newton had described, leveraging off the available funding outside the Navajo Nation. such as partnerships with federal entities as well as states, has been something that the Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources has definitely appreciated and seeked opportunities for regarding. And this study that we're describing today was at the community level related to their concerns. Thank you to Delegate Nathaniel Brown, as well as his LDA Renee Hoshnick for their involvement in this, as well as the chapter and the farm board for being able to collaborate with the Army Corps of Engineers on this project. And today, the results from the water resources study for the Laguna Creek will be described. It was an interest of the Resources and Development Committee, as well as the executive leadership when President Nez, as well as RDC, had met last year to be able to get an update regarding this study. There are several other Army Corps studies under different authorities that the Army Corps of Engineers has to be able to evaluate different things. It's important that we understand these authorities under our federal partnerships, because then we better understand the funding guidelines for which we can apply for different projects. And it's been my pleasure to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, and I will now pass it to Melissa Weimiller to be able to describe the results from this study. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to present. I'm Melissa Weimiller. I am a project manager with the Sacramento District Army Corps of Engineers, and we really appreciate the opportunity to present. I'm actually going to hand it off to Elizabeth Dion so she can share the results.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Elizabeth here, talking about our Callienta water resources study results. For many of you who are unfamiliar with the Army Corps of Engineers, we do a lot of work. We cover flood risk management, water supply, water quality, navigation, ecosystem restoration, emergency response, cultural resources protection, and all manner of engineering and research. We cover every state, every U.S. territory, and we do missions large and small. A lot of work we can do is scalable. We have many different project authorities which we can work under. For larger projects, we are thinking things that are congressionally authorized, general investigation studies. They're large, they're complex. Maybe they take about 5 years for, so they take about 5 years for funding. Smaller studies, we have delegated authorities, tribal partnership programs, and PAS, the Planning Assistance to States, which includes floodplain management and silver jackets. This project was done under the PAS, Planning Assistance to State Authority, which allows us to look at work. It allows us to do studies, do technical assistance, but it does not allow for us to do any.
Please pause. Hello. Your volume is very muffled. I don't know if you have any other electronic equipment near you that's causing a lot of echo.
Oh, how is this? Is this better?
You're okay now.
Okay, thanks. I think I was just standing too far away. Okay, so the Callienta study, as I was saying, it was done under Planning Assistance to States. Our goal for the study, we received a letter from the tribe asking us to look at flood risk reduction and to increase water supply reliability. Again, there's no implementation authority provided with this. In 2012, the Marsh Pass Dam was damaged. In that year, there was also a large flood event that impacted the elementary school in Callienta. For those of you who are only on phone, I am showing an image of Marsh Pass Dam, the damaged portion, and an aerial view. So everyone here can have an idea of how large the section of dam that is missing was. Our findings regarding flooding: for the flooding of the township, we performed some modeling and we showed that waters from Laguna Creek stay within the channel. We could not replicate any flooding from Laguna Creek. We had concluded that any flooding was a result of overland flows, and looking at maps, we had found some detention basins that were constructed about 2013, 2014, and there have been no replanted flood events after the basins were constructed. So, so flooding was not replicated, basins were constructed. So we had moved on to looking at the water supply issues. Our findings for water supply, our options for the dam. At the end of our study, we concluded that there could either reconstruct the Marsh Pass Dam in its entirety at a cost of $12.3 million to $16 million. The other option would be to rebuild the broken portion of the dam. This could be built using gabion baskets or sheet pile. The gabion baskets we had cost estimated to be $5.5 million to $7.25 million, and the sheet pile dam is $5.5 million to $7.1 million. Our last option that we came up with was an option of using pumps to draw water directly from Laguna Creek into the Diversion Canal. Water would have to be pooled before the pumps could work. And when we are talking pumps, we are talking about pumps that are capable of handling sediment, slurry, water that is not pure. So this is our other option. And I had just mentioned with the pumps about sediment and impure water. Sedimentation has been and will continue to be a challenge with any possible solution, whether it's rebuilding the whole dam, rebuilding part of the dam using pumps. Laguna Creek has a lot of sediment, and we've estimated to keep the dam free of sediment, it would be about 340 truckloads of sediment that would need to be moved annually. So with any option, this will be a continuing thought and challenge.
And hi, this is Melissa Weimiller. I'll just a quick mention some of the things that challenges for USACE implementations. Like Crystal said, it's really important that we understand everybody's authority so that we can support Navajo Nation through our federal programs. Unfortunately, we do have limited water supply authorities. There are a few, and we've been working with Crystal to identify potential under those, but it's always, we know the Navajo Nation is working with Bureau of Reclamation and Natural Resource Conservation Service, which has more authorities underneath of water supply for municipal and irrigation supply. Under flood risk management, our alternatives need to have a positive benefit to cost ratio. So the economics are typically challenging in any rural community. We do have some opportunities to justify projects based on an Army Corps term called comprehensive benefits. That's something that is fairly new to Army Corps and looking at ways beyond economic justification to look at projects. We do have some cost share waivers for federally recognized tribes, but the cost share waiver is $530,000 for a study and $530,000 for construction. There are a couple of other waivers, but they're typically not enough to fund a large feasibility study or construction at 100% federal cost. So we really appreciate our partnership with DWR to identify where we can provide support. Next slide, please. Future opportunities. We are working with Crystal to organize a large interagency meeting. We really want to share knowledge and share resources to be able to focus on, where can our agencies together make connections? Can we do a study like this study for Callienta under planning assistance to states that then another agency might be able to implement? So we just want to, understand everybody's authorities as much as we can. We are also standing up a Navajo Nation program. I believe we want to present the goals of the program to this committee at some point in the near future, but that we're standing that up to be able to provide additional support to the nation and really get creative about how Army Corps can support underneath our authorities. We know there's opportunities under the infrastructure bill under some of our authorities. The authority that completed this study got an additional 30 million. So we know there's additional opportunities for planning and technical services support. And then underneath environmental justice 40 initiatives, Army Corps is looking at how we can reprioritize support to underserved communities. And so we're still trying to identify ways to do that. It'll most likely be under these types of programs that we've talked about, planning assistance to states and tribes and floodplain management services. But we're excited to work with our communities to identify additional opportunities to support. Next slide. And that is our presentation. We leave it open for any questions. Thank you.
At this time, I just wanted to reiterate three things from the presentation, three main highlights, and those main highlights being that the flooding that had occurred in the past in Callienta for the elementary school was just a result of the overland flow. So if you know, like when it rains really hard and it runs over the parking lot, you know, there needs a opportunity for that water to go somewhere. And unfortunately, in some of our rural communities, we don't have drainage systems that are sufficient to be able to let that water run off faster than, you know, without having the storm drainages that you would otherwise see in cities. So it's important to note that that flooding didn't occur from Laguna Creek. And then the second thing that I wanted to also highlight again is just the cost. I know within the community of Callienta, people are interested in what the cost would be for rebuilding the dam. And that cost, you know, is in between 12.3 million to 16 million. The one thing I don't know is if this cost is inclusive of the costs that have impacted the supply chain due to the pandemic. Delegate Charles Newton had described, you know, there are different infrastructure projects that we have, but the pandemic's impact on the supply chain has impacted the availability of what these projects were pre-pandemic price tagged at versus what they are, the price tag is in current pandemic times. So it's important to have that understanding of what that cost is. It could be as much as 16 million to rebuild that dam. The other thing that I wanted to be able to highlight as well is there's a sedimentation issue, and this is in many of our other communities as well, where there's a lot of sand. And if a dam was to be rebuilt, and in order to prevent the dam from breaching again, on average, what was estimated is 430 truckloads. And it's not like the back of a pickup truck, cab truck type of truckloads, but these are large truckloads that would need to occur annually, 430 of them, to remove that sediment to prevent further breaches. If the nation was to invest 16 million because of the sediment issues, there are other efforts, you know, to describe what could be done upstream, but that would involve other infrastructure opportunities, as was described in one of the slides with some of the gabion baskets and other things, as far as, you know, as well as restoration, taking care of that upstream, maybe opportunities to help decrease that sedimentation load. But sedimentation is really a challenge on the western side of the Navajo Nation. And those are the three things that I just wanted to highlight. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tully Cordova. Are you all done with the presentation then?
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second. To accept the report. Motion to accept report. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, thank you. Second by?
Second, Stewart.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions? I hear none. We'll go ahead and vote to accept the report. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay,
Chairman Key, I vote green.
thank you. Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels,
Green.
thank you. Honorable Freeland is excused. Honorable Stewart,
Green.
thank you. Honorable Stewart. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Crystal Tully Cordova. We certainly appreciate your dedication to doing the work that you do for the Navajo Nation under Department of Water Resources. We also want to thank the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Ms. Dion and Ms. Waymiller. Thank you very much. Be safe out there. May God bless you, all of you. Going down to B, Nantai, report on the standard consideration amounts for commercial tribal access authorization by the Navajo Nation Division of Natural Resources, Department of Minerals. We have presenter Ms. Rowena Jeremiah, as well as Stephen Prince on the line. Ms. Jeremiah, you have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Nez. I was under the impression we were going to go into executive session.
Okay. Mr.
Chairman. Chairman?
Yes.
Per our one-stop session work session that we had on February 7th at Twin Arrows Casino, Ms. Jeremiah brought this question up, and per your recommendation, it was we were going to have this discussion in executive session. I've communicated with Ms. Jeremiah, and I have sent out the executive Zoom link for this discussion, and I've included all the individuals that she has recommended to be on this, as well as the direction from Ms. Mariana Khan to include Navajo Department of Justice on this. So at the moment, the executive Zoom link is set up. We just need to go into executive session. Back to you, Chair.
Okay. What we will do right now is have a motion and a second for the main motion, just to keep that motion. And after that, we will have another motion to go into executive session. We will have a timeline. Ms. Jeremiah, at that time, you'll let us know how much time we need to go into executive session, and then we'll vote on it, and then we'll go into executive session. So honorable members of RDC, let's just establish a motion and a second first.
Motion, Chairman, to go into executive session.
Honorable Stewart, this is just to establish a motion for the main motion on the report first. And then what we'll do is have a separate motion for the executive session. So Honorable Stewart, motion for the report first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, thank you. The reason I'm doing this is because we're going to receive a report in executive session. So after the executive session, we'll come back and accept the report. So at this time, there is a motion to go into, we would like to establish a motion to go into executive session. But before we do that, Ms. Jeremiah, how much time do we need?
Chairman Nez, we need 1 hour for executive session.
Okay, 1 hour for the presentation and discussion. And honorable members of RDC would like to have a motion and a second for executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Aaron,
this
I
is
move.
Delegate Herman.
Honorable Daniels, motions, second by. I second. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. It is currently 12:33 p.m. 1 hour will be at 1:33 p.m. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote? I vote green. Thank you. Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland is excused. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Calowitz, green.
Okay, thank you. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. It is now 12:34. We'll go into executive session. A number was sent to us with the list of those who will receive the executive session number. We will get out of executive session at 1:34 p.m. Thank you. Hang up and then call in the new number.